fault, yeah. But anyway, that's all gonna be behind me kind of soon. Because I'll be moving away. Starting something new. But my main point is, I just wish that I could have been I just wish that I could have been closer to you all. I just wish that I could have been closer to you all.
And so after I got this traffic violation, I was basically told that I had two choices: either pay a huge fine, which I couldn't really afford, or I had to do community service. So, of course, I picked the community service, and we were doing this community service for they originally told me it was 500 hours, which is overtime about 6 months worth of work. And I was looking at the options of things I could do, and because I used to play ice hockey as a kid, one of the people that was behind the board of commissions and saying what you should and shouldn't do suggested that I actually look after the local ice hockey team. So we did. I went to meet them. Didn't go particularly well. They were very unhappy with me when I got there. They didn't think that I was able to teach them or train them or anything else and teach them ice hockey, and it didn't go particularly well. But over time, we broke down those barriers. We spent a bit of time working together, and eventually we won the championship that year. So we went from losing games and losing, I think it was a 13 losing streak at one point, to winning the championship within 2 years. And yeah, that's just what happens when you have a traffic violation sometimes.
Wow, that's
actually crazy.
That's You live such an interesting life, Jay.
I know, right? The irony of that one is that I actually did used to play ice hockey when I was a kid, which in the UK not many people get to do because we've not got many ice rinks here.
There. Don't you play it in the English Channel?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the English Channel is right where we play it. Yeah.
I was asking if that's Mighty Ducks. I actually don't even know what that
is. It is Mighty Ducks. Yeah, it is Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, I didn't actually know. So I was like, there's so many films that could be this, but is it ice hockey?
I'm always so bad at this because I don't really watch movies.
Yeah. Why would you watch movies if you could put your hand on a keyboard?
I know, right? Come on, let's be real here.
Gigi Lardi or Galadi, I don't know how to pronounce that. Not always, but I try and do a bit of a hot story every week. It's usually a movie, and it's kind of fun that people try and guess the movie that I'm doing. So yeah, it's usually the plot to a movie or a TV show or something else, and I try and spin it as though it's my life.
I feel like we never should have addressed it. Like we shouldn't
We
should
never
have said anything about it. We should just say it.
We should have just pretended they were all
just
true. Just every
Yeah.
single one of them was true.
Jay is the most interesting man in the world.
In the world.
It's true. Speaking of interesting, shoutouts to Wave Depth, Geo, and Octagon for the subs. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah. Oh, it's nerdy. Oh, okay. I know who you are now. Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
Nice, nice.
That's the Mr. Anubis guy.
Mr. Anubis guy?
Yeah. Have you not seen the Anubis board? The interest check for the Anubis?
I think it sounds familiar.
Hieroglyphs all over the top.
No, it's not that one. It's the one with the curvature on the rear and the front, and the kind of chunky bezels and swooped sides. You would recognize it if you've seen it.
I feel like that's a lot of keyboards.
You probably looked at it on stream, Hugo, and said it's trash, right?
Yeah, I probably did. Oh, did it have a USB port? That's one of the biggest defining.
It did have a USB port. Yeah, it did have a USB port.
I'm gonna have to look this up.
Oh, it's the 60%, right? With the oh yeah, I remember this. Oh, yes.
Okay.
I never did catch what you said about the JR1 on your stream either, Hugo.
I don't want to
go back
know.
and watch your streams to hear that.
And then I just wasn't a fan of the dead space on the left. I know you could get an option without it, so it's fine. I think like at the time when I was doing the show, I like played it up. I was like, oh, what a waste of space. But like, and I was like, yeah, whatever though. It's probably good. That's how usually all the takes end. I'll like roast one feature of it, and then I'll be like, but like don't let that stop you from buying it, because you probably should buy it.
That's the thing, right? Like, I feel like very few boards are like truly terrible. It's more just like
board that you shouldn't not buy. If you have if you're financially stable, like you should.
Brian,
if you can afford it. You
talk to me about the Doro 67, man. About boards you shouldn't buy.
Okay, I said most. All right. I feel
There's most.
I'm still salty on that one. Still salty on that one.
I feel like very few keyboards are like honestly terrible, like truly terrible. Like most of them are still fairly okay and usable.
Yeah, I think even with like sound elitists who are like, oh, the Rama like integrated plate sounds bad. It's like, yeah, but would you not own one? Like, no, you would probably own one. Don't lie to yourself.
Yeah.
The Rama's a good board.
I happily own an M60, and you know what? People complain about the integrated plate. I'm telling you, clicky switches on the integrated plate is the truth.
Oh no!
It's so nice and consistent.
This is the default answer though. If a board sounds crap when you build it, put clicky
it on
switches
a
in
plate.
it. Just put clicky switches in it. Simple. That's
right.
it. You fixed it.
Right.
Yeah, if the clicky switches, you could just blame the sound on the clickies. No one will ever call you out on it.
Exactly. CA66 box navies. Stopped all that echoing. It just was a clicky board. It was fine. Noah 65. That sounded hollow as hell. Put box pinks in there. Sounds fine. Like it just sounds like a clicky board now. That's it.
A lot of people don't realize
the click mechanism, so you don't have any problems.
A lot of people don't realize that like Rama is a big fan of silent switches. And
I'm aware.
Like,
all of their videos have silent switches.
Yeah, so like I feel like the integrated plate lends itself a lot better to silent switches or clicky switches versus like nice quote unquote linears or tactile switches.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I think maybe like Rama is going over a feel thing that they want to feel when using silent switches more than like, and then people just don't kind of get it.
Yeah,
I think Rama's more. He's very much about industrial design as well. It's about looks and aesthetics for Rama as well. if you look at Rama's Instagram, his personal one, you can tell that he likes the finer things in life. That's kind of like his position. So he wants things to look like it's worth $1 million sat on your desk, and that's kind of where he goes.
Yeah, but not charge you $1 million. Only the aftermarket.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Only the aftermarket is allowed to charge you $1 million.
Yeah. People think a lot of like Rama
Polaris
stuff is really expensive, but like honestly, it's fairly comparable to like most other things.
Yeah,
in the hobby.
he does it in bulk, so he gets
like
the prices down.
A base model M60 was like $360.
People slap on this insane price on top of everything. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
There's Apocalypse. He knows what's up. He says CA66 sounds glorious with box jades, navies, and pinks. Right, it was the only way I could get that board to sound good.
Yeah,
was
people
to put box
people like
navies
hate
in
that board with linears in it.
Yeah,
yeah.
The next generation of clickies. I think Zeal is making them, right? I'm very excited.
Zeal's doing the Alps style click in the Switch, which is interesting.
I'm interested because like I just don't want to hear a second click. That's always been like the only thing. Like the first click is always super satisfying, But the upstroke click is like, oh, I don't need the second one.
Are you talking about on click bar switches?
Yeah, on click bar switches. Yeah,
That's fair. It's pretty machine gun for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm not a double
Well-
tapper. I don't play video games, so.
What we should do
No, I
Hugo,
mean, like,
is
the
buy
sa-
you a
the
solenoid
sounds.
that you can plug into any keyboard that just makes a single click on every key press. That's
Oh my god, an external dedicated solenoid? That
solenoid.
Would, you know how many people would buy that?
With like a machined housing, like a CNC machined housing that just sits between your cable. So you have like a short cable from the solenoid box to your keyboard, and then you have a cable from there into the back of your PC, like a through USB. Dude, Brian, we need to.
All right,
make
Twitch
this.
chat. Nobody take that idea. All right, all rights reserved. Patent pending.
Let me host Pudsey to have a bad take about it, and then we'll.
Oh yeah, are you kidding me?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
that would
Pudsey
be the kind
will
of
have a bad
product
take
that
on everything,
Pudsey
so.
absolutely loves.
Oh, I love having Pudsey on for that. Having like an egregious take so that my take sounds so much better.
But it's like,
I mean, like tons of boards have got solenoids in. Like I've got one in my Hyper 7. I've got one in a couple of other boards and stuff like that, which is fun. But having a standalone solenoid box that's dedicated as a solenoid noisemaker for any keyboard you plug in, that sounds fun.
I mean, it's like entirely a meme, and that's like amazing because you can't pass it off as anything but a meme. So if anyone hates on it, it's like it's just a meme, dude.
Exactly. This is going to happen, Brian. I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna work with James, and we're gonna make this. Probably won't sell it because no one will want to buy it. But I'm gonna make one. I'm gonna send one to you.
Look, if the ISO macro made it to production, anything can make it to production. Okay, I think the more self-aware it is, the even better it is.
ISO
Captain
is
Ladiesman
a
says,
fantastic
did Hugo
product.
get in the JO1 Rev 1?
No, I
I think Hugo's got taste, so probably not.
I did not get one. The J02 though, oof, that's something I do want.
The JO2 is
JO2
more in my sights as well.
Soon, that's all I can say. Soon. Yeah.
Tahoe
J-Chef in chat as well. Put a pen rail on it. I'm in. Yeah.
People like those pen rails, man.
Look, if you're
it works, man.
and you're not also into writing, what are you doing? You're in the wrong hobby. I'm just kidding.
Pia is asking what a solenoid is. I feel like I'm not qualified to actually explain what it is.
I would.
It's a mechanical device that in keyboards. I mean, they're used for multiple things in like mechanical engineering, depending on what you want to do. But effectively, it's like a 2-part thing that drops part of inside and it makes a clang. Hold on. Let me find a better description of it. I can kind of describe it in my head.
I'll do a worse explanation, and then you could do a better one. It's
Go on, then.
a magnet, which nobody knows how it works. So there you go. it's like that.
Yeah. So you wrap it. Basically, what you do is you wrap a wire around a lump of metal, and then you put it on top of a piston. And as the piston moves up and down based on the electromagnetic flux, you can create drive and energy and things like that out of it. Now, in keyboards, we don't use it for production of power or to translate power from electromagnetic into physical motion. We don't do that, but we do it because it makes a nice noise.
Ganaball in chat says.
Big true.
Ganaball in chat says it makes board go ping. I like that
Yeah.
description.
If the solenoid is loud enough, it doesn't matter what switch you have, because that's the beauty of it.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It can overpower.
You're on loop switches now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
Imagine a bug zapper firing on every keystroke. That's a solenoid. I mean, that's pretty much it in keyboard terms. Yeah, in real terms, it's to turn electromagnetic kind of power into like a physical movement of power.
How classic is it that, of course, the keyboard hobby finds a way to get something useful and then make little use of it.
Hey,
That's so true. That's so true.
you know. Fleximan, thank you very much, Flex, for the 5 tier 1 gift subs. That's now a total of 113 you've given away, dude.
Holy
Flex,
crap.
my partner in crime with the lodestone. Thank you very much, man. Thank you, dude.
The
Genuinely appreciate
lodestone,
that.
man. I'm looking forward to that too.
Or is he making
Like,
them?
do you know what's the worst thing about the lodestone is? There's like 3 prototypes that I've had made, and I don't even have a single one of them here. Like they're all out with other
Where's
people.
my prototype? Don't you know who I am? Just kidding.
Are any-
your prototype will come when you have good hot takes. That's
Are any... Ooh,
That's a good. I'll give it to you. That's a good hot take.
hot take. All your hot takes are bad. Are any of the lodestone protos good, workable? That's gonna be a difficult board.
The first two had issues. Like we ordered two at the same time, one for Flex and one for myself. That one did have issues. The one that Flex has, and then we ordered a third prototype, which works just fine. I actually showed it off on stream. You can go back and check my build streams for it. I think I showed off the JO1 Rev one and the Lodestone on the same stream actually. But yeah, it fully works. It's you can type on it, you can tap away on it. Querdenker actually has one of the original prototypes as well. But there's still a few challenges we want to overcome, just like refinements and to make things a little bit better and quality of life improvements. But Flex has been finishing up the FLX Virgo group buy, and I had the JO1 group buy, so we just kind of put it on pause for a few weeks. But yeah, it's like as soon as we get back on it, it should be fairly quick to fix. We just need to try a few new materials and a few bits and pieces, and then hopefully we'll be able to take it to group buy. But it's not like anything you've ever typed on before, let me put it that way.
I could certainly believe that.
Would you say it's the first magnetic maglev keyboard in the world?
I don't know about the first in the world. Like the one that works, the prototype that works with Flex is. I had no idea if that's the first one. Since we unveiled the Lodestone back at the beginning of the COVID stuff in February, I've had 6 or 7 different designers reach out to me and say that they're working on magnetic kind of related mounting systems, and I know people worked on it before, so I have no idea if anyone else has a working prototype or not. No one's actually told me that. But as far as I know, ours is the only one that's fully CNC machine milled and working and up there. So I don't know. No one else has told me that they've got anything else. So.
Yeah, but nobody knows how magnets work. So like when you say maglev mounted, it actually goes over their head real quick.
Yeah, it's just magic inside. It's like a magic inside the box. What we do is we unscrew it and we just get this magic and we cram it in and then we screw it together really quickly and then it just works.
Yeah, we put highly concentrated magic in the box.
Yeah.
Works.
You need a license for it actually, especially
Magic
yeah.
TM.
You should try getting around the EU licenses for Magic, man. It's so difficult.
Oh my god. Yeah, you think it'd be better since Hogwarts is nearby, but nah.
Yeah.
Nice.
No.
Oh man. All right. Well, with that in mind, we should probably officially start the show now. So let's go ahead and do that. Ladies, gentlemen, anyone else, anyone that actually cares, welcome to this week's episode of Top Clack. I am your host, Quakums, joined as usual by my lovely co-host, Jay, and we have a special guest on today, as you can probably notice. We have Hugo of Hugo Keys, twitch.tv/yada yada yada. Please, sir, let us know how you're doing and who the hell you are, because some people around here might not know who you are.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm most known for having a show with Pudsey where we exchange hot takes on interest checks. But outside of that, I run a small stream and we build keyboards or we review keyboards. And yeah, that's about it.
That's about it. Okay, well, that's still a fair amount of stuff. People in chat saying "toxic man pog." So obviously,
I've never been toxic in my whole life. I don't know what they're on about.
So basically, this is going to be an incredibly toxic show. So just prepare yourself, guys. We're gonna have hot takes up the wazoo, which is going to be pretty interesting. But we have
certainly feels that way.
Yeah. Well, before we get into things, Jay, how about yourself? How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Yeah, tired, but I'm doped up on coffee, so I should be all right.
Doped up on coffee, man. This guy over here doing drugs.
I've just finished one mug, and I've just finished that. That's empty now. I've just started the second one, so yeah, 2 mugs.
Is caffeine against Twitch's terms of service considered drugs?
No, they said any illusion of doing drugs.
Oh man, this is scary. This is why I stick to tea. I just got some tea.
That's why he's late on late night.
Yeah, well, you know, Jay's kind of hardcore, right? He's obviously
Jay works so hard.
He overworks, in my opinion.
You sounded like that was sarcasm. Then Hugo. Like, he works so hard. Yeah.
Imagine having a full-time job and being a vendor and being a streamer.
Yeah, and having a wife, right? That takes a lot of time.
Yeah, weird how this
Is
works.
That the job?
Just wow.
It feels like it at times, but I love it to bits. Do you know, actually, someone reached out to me the other day and said, why do you keep talking about your wife? I hear she's a figment of your imagination. It's like, thanks, man.
Shut up on stream.
Yeah, well, my wife's been on stream before. She's been in pictures with me before. Like, I literally replied to him with like a picture of me and the wife. I did like a selfie of me and the wife, and we were like waving at him, and I sent it back to him. He didn't reply after that, but I have no idea where he got that from. Like,
So it was obviously faked. He didn't even want to ask. because you know how
Yeah.
you can't just post a picture without a timestamp and expect people to think it's real.
Yeah, it needs to have a timestamp in it. It needs to have me pointing at the timestamp in it and pointing at myself and pointing at the wife, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, and
guys.
blank check signed with your roulette or something.
Quick shout outs to LBI Bass as well as Mr. Petrov. Thank you so much for the subs, guys. Appreciate that.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
So we're gonna.
Was
We
there a
have.
couple missed before as well, before Flex? I think there was a couple
think I got
missed
them
before
all.
that as well. Okay. I'll trust you. I'll trust you.
Oh,
Not everyone
you
will.
probably shouldn't trust me, but I'm pretty sure I got them all. Don't worry.
All right.
Don't
Okay.
worry.
Well,
And-
Mo Zero, thank you very much for the 36-month streak of subs as well. 36 months.
Thank you.
How
so
is
much.
that even possible, dude?
I
36.
believe it's M-U-Woo, actually. I'm just kidding.
It's just, everyone is just called Uwu to me. I'm sorry. Oh man.
Wait, why?
And,
Fiat gifting a tier 1 sub.
Mr. Nathan Kim
There's-
himself is here.
There's no way Nathan's even watching. He probably has better things than even watching this.
He turned on. Yeah, he has. Yeah, little do you know, he probably has like 6 windows open for people he used to support. He used to be able to watch live. Yeah.
Oh man, I think he's just too busy to watch a stream like this these days. Regardless, let's get back on topic here, or at least start the topics. We do have quite a few things to kind of go over today. So usually we start out with something a little bit more lighthearted and whimsical, but because of all the things that we have to talk about today, we're not going to do that. So we're just going to jump straight into this, so we don't hopefully have like a 4, 5, 6 hour show. So let's go ahead and start out with our first topic, which is going to be kind of cultivating and policing our own sub-communities, if you will, within the hobby. Because obviously, as a lot of you guys know, the hobby has grown pretty wildly over the last few years, and now that we have so many vendors and content creators and designers and et cetera, a lot of these people, if you're anyone in the community, you probably have your own Discord server, your own Twitch stream, or your own storefront, whatever you want to call it. And you probably have your own sub-community that's kind of within the overarching keyboard community. And, you know, with that comes a little bit of a responsibility to kind of cultivate and police your own sub-community. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today because, obviously, Hugo has his own sub-community that he kind of works on. Top Clack, obviously, we have our own as well. And pretty much a lot of you people in chat, if you've ever designed or, you know, streamed or anything, you probably have your own servers as well. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, how we can properly cultivate our own communities and maybe some of the things we should or shouldn't be doing in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have of me is that I like have this persona of being like kind of toxic or like really memey or even kind of edgy about keyboard jokes. But people don't also realize like I police my community really, really heavily. Like, you know, there's people who say certain things that like it might sound like on a surface level that I could agree with because of like the personality that we're playing up. But obviously I would never believe that thing for real. And then so some people will think it's appropriate to say certain things in either the Discord that I run or on Twitch chat. And it's like, no, that's not okay. I feel like so as a community, a sub-community grows, you are definitely in charge of what the community is, right? Because like the community is 100% a reflection of who you are as a person, right? Like if you think that's okay and passable, you're like unintentionally, even if you're not actively saying it, you're encouraging this kind of behavior. And I think that's something that most new content creators might not be cognizant of even some existing content creators on Twitch aren't cognizant of about. And I think it's very important if you want to like have a good community or like have a community that's reflected well for it to be policed pretty well.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think there is definitely an intrinsic link between who you physically are on screen and who you portray yourself as in your communities, whether that's Discord or whether it's Slack or whether it's Reddit or wherever else you post and you foster content. I think you're absolutely right there. And I think there is a bit of ownership that's required by those content creators to make sure that as you said, people aren't if you have a hot take that is clearly just you playing up to the character that you play on stream, that they aren't taking that as gospel truth and they aren't moving that through as kind of like your actual true belief system when it comes to your community. And I think you have a responsibility to make sure that that's correct, because you don't want people then to go into other communities and share that that's your actual mindset.
Yeah, like I would never, like one thing I really want to avoid is like, let's say I make fun of Jay's board, like, oh, I don't like the J01, the bezels are too big, like whatever. I definitely don't want a fan of mine or like a viewer of mine to then go to your Discord and be like, huh, this board sucks, and then list the exact same reasons I would have done. But it's like, no, that's not what I want. Like that's just, even if I truly believe that, it'd be only my opinion. And it's like that should not stop. I would never want to be in a position where if I ever got more popular, like even if I was half as big as Teja, I would never ever want for me to say an opinion about a board and have that like negatively affect how a board performs for the group I face. I would never ever want that.
Yeah. Excuse me. I mean, we don't like to use the word, obviously. I think a lot of us can pretty much agree it's kind of a bad word, but influencer. The fact remains it is still certainly a thing, and you know, even the smaller streamers around the community, like they have some semblance of pull. And a lot of the new people that come into the stream, let's say you have a brand new viewer, they're brand new to the community, you know, they're going to listen to what you have to say most of the time. And depending on how you portray that or convey that, they're going to interpret it in certain ways too. So obviously, Jay and I have it a little bit easier because we're just ourselves on stream and we just try to be wholesome, good, helpful people. And most people kind of understand that these days, and that's kind of the general vibe. But I know it's a little bit more difficult for streamers like you, Hugo, who, you know, you do have this kind of special take, and you're trying to inject something that's more than just yourself into your content.
Like the whole goal of even like being that person was like, yeah, I just kind of want to play up, you know, add a little more energy, you know, to a keyboard, like make it more entertaining for both myself. Like it's fun. Like if I was in a group with you guys, like at a table, you know, and we were just like looking at boards, I'm like, haha, like I hate that board, like, you know, as a joke. Of course, like it's more like, oh, if I was friends with them, this is the kind of content I would have been saying anyways. So I just wanted to like bring that out because I you know, I stream, and most people who are content creators understand this. You create content that you yourself should be enjoying. Like if it was someone else but it mirrored the exact same way, that's the content you want to be creating and absorbing. Like that's what you want as a content creator, and that's the kind of content I wanted to consume. So that was like a reflection of me.
Yeah, I completely get that. I mean, like, I think, and there's no right or wrong with this, right? I mean, everyone's entitled to create content in any way and shape that they like. As Brian said, we're very much just ourselves, and I like to share my things with people. And if people want to watch that, great. If they don't, hey, they don't have to. But I mean, like we were talking about, Brian and I were talking about before you joined, before our voice chat earlier on, and it's kind of like if you look at some of the bigger streamers in terms of video gaming and stuff like that, you've got people that play characters permanently, you know, like Dr. Disrespect. Like I don't really watch his content, I don't know much about him, but he is in character all the way through every stream.
And it's crazy. People like are really mean to him too, and it's like you do realize like he's doing this for like Pokemon.
That's his entertainment, yeah.
And it's, you know, it's really hard for them to like hang out with their friends and not be that personality, because it's like, you know, if you do that as a full-time job, like 8 hours a day, like at some point it's gonna come back into you. Like you know, there's no, like, you need an escapism, and it's pretty wild that it takes place, but that fans don't realize sometimes.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point that you bring up. Like, when you do something like that for so long and so often in the day, it might kind of seep over to the rest of your life. And I know it's obviously a much smaller scale potentially for you, Hugo, but do you ever find yourself being your more stream personality outside of your content?
I think my close friends will know like where that line is drawn, like because like I'm very like I'm very switchable. Like there's some things that like there's a really big, it's not a fine line, it's like a really big bold line that is like crossable and uncrossable. And also like I find that like people will know when it's like, okay, I'm turning on the personality or whatever. Yeah, but it's I think for me it's very much controlled. I think I take a lot of it from like the Eric Andre show, because like people think that him, like in real life, he's like as absurd and crazy like he is on his show, but he's like, no, like it's like a way more toned down version. Like some of the opinions might be there, but it will be like way more subtle and toned down. And then it's like, oh, but that's like a spark of an idea that I can like begin to like formulate a joke out of. It's how you like do the creative process of making content.
Yeah, definitely. So just getting back to growing a community and kind of fostering, cultivating a community, what do you guys think are some of the bigger things people should keep in mind as they start to gain followers and gain, I hate to say it, but influence?
I think it's fostering good community culture. That's definitely it. Like, if I had a new viewer show up and like do a donation, and their donation was like, hi, I'm new, but like, you know, I'm really glad that I saw like your content, like it's funny takes, but like they realized like I would want the community so that like if I'm not there in my Discord, that if someone says something bad, or like out of line or not in line with like my ideals, that the other people, my community, would reflectively tell them that, or like adjust that view of theirs.
What about you, Jay? Anything to add?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I don't think he's. I think he's hit the nail on the head. To be honest with that, I think it has to be an intentional culture, and you have to work out what culture you want your community to have before you start to grow it. And as you start to grow it, you have to bear that in mind. It has to be an intentionally developed culture. You don't want it to just grow on its own in terms of taking shape and taking thought and moving itself, because if it does, it'll get out of control, and some of the negative things that we've talked about before will happen. So people will start to take words out of context, and they'll start to take meaning out of context, and context and intent are two very, very important things to how people portray things and say things on stream and in real life. And if people can't tell where the meme ends and the real feelings begin, then they need to be aware of, or the rest of your community need to be aware of how to educate people on that point. I think that, and you have to develop that from day one. You have to go from the ground up.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, if you're already established, I think I had this negative opinion of me like a little early, and then obviously I had like people who thought A or B. And I felt like I was like, oh no, I have to do something right now, like right as soon as my community has grown. I get from the 10 to the 20 to the 30 mark. I was like, no, like I have to draw the line in the sand here, like because I already see like inklings of like pushing the boundaries of what's acceptable, because all it takes is like the slippery slope, right, of what you allow. And so like I actually had to really strongly push back and like, hey guys, like I'm just gonna do streams that like aren't even me playing up anything, like it's just to tell you like, hey, at the end of the day I'm still a regular person, like if I'm mean about a keyboard, it doesn't mean I'm gonna be mean to everybody, or I'm gonna be mean to people for no reason.
Yeah, I think that's important. I comes up with a good point as well. It says the number of times that messages get screenshotted and passed around out of context is way too high. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Hugo, but I probably get it on a weekly basis where someone will take one sentence that I've said or one phrase that I've typed into a Discord server, and they will screenshot it and they will pass that off as my actual belief, completely out of context in relation to something else. And then I'll get 5 angry DMs saying, "Why on earth do you think this?"
Yeah, that's actually crazy. That people DM you, that's insane for over that opinion. That's actually the one sentence Andy's. Yeah, Zerhocalypse knows.
One sentence.
Yeah, Zerk is right. Yeah.
I've had like I feel like I set myself up to do it sometimes. Like on like as a mistake, but like. Yeah, I feel like I'm lucky enough that my community isn't big enough, or like I don't have viewers who like hate view me. I guess like that's kind of what's happening in your Discord. There's people who visit your Discord once a day just to like, oh, did Jay say anything stupid today? Haha, now it's my and it's like not to make fun of like, oh, what are you doing with your life? Well, it's like, well, I'm genuinely curious. Like, what do you get out of this? Haha, I banned another vendor maker in Europe, got him. It's like, okay, so you made the community smaller. Good job. I'm not sure why you would want to do that.
Yeah, like it happens less now than it used to do when we used to talk about things on the show. But like over the maybe 2019 was when it got to its real peak towards the middle of 2019, and like we talk about things on the show, and I always try and remain positive about news when we were doing the news show as it was back in old Top Clack world, and try and go through a board and talk about its positive features, talk about things that I was slightly concerned about, and the number of comments I would get where people would take just one sentence out of context. Like,
that's crazy because now I do that unironically and people say nothing to me.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. That's the thing. Like maybe that's because people realize that that's your personality, right? That's
maybe normalizing it. Maybe you go back to doing the show and then it'll be good.
Maybe it's the kind of entertainment aspect that you're giving at that point. Yeah. Like, if it all follows the plan, then there's nothing wrong. Whereas if I'm trying to do something more serious and I'm just being myself, it's easier to try and find gaps in what I'm saying and things like that as well. But yeah, it used to happen a lot more than it does now. But
yeah, thankfully,
some of the comments you get are interesting.
I mean, I'm in a position to do this more than you are, I guess. Like when people have a hot, mean comment to me, like I just put it on a pedestal. Like I actually frame it, and I'm like, yes. I got someone who is so upset to type to me a personal message. I'm honored. And then I'll bring it up on stream. I'm like, oh, this is going on the wall of fame, baby. Let's go. I love it.
Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should have like a plaque here in the office of like,
I think you're
quotes out of context.
You're probably wholesome enough that this wouldn't even be not funny. You could probably do a segment of mean tweets at Jay. Like mean Discord messages at Jay.
Maybe.
That would probably be a sick segment.
Well, getting back on topic here, like we mentioned earlier, the community that you kind of cultivate, the sub-community rather, is kind of a reflection of you as a person. And I do think that we can pretty much all agree that that's kind of the way the sub-community should develop too. Or at least that's kind of the way it happens. Like, if I'm sure a lot of us have been to a Discord server, for example, and it just seems really overly memey. And oftentimes that comes from, you know, the source of the Discord server, the content creator or, you know, the vendor or whatever have you, thinking that it's just okay to act that way and that's the way that people should act. And then, you know, maybe you go to some other servers, the Top Clack server, for example, and people tend to be a little bit more mature and wholesome there just because that's kind of the way that we try to portray things and what we try to, you know, kind of insert into people's minds to just try to be, you know, helpful. But I do think, I want to get your thoughts on, what do you guys think about, from the viewer's perspective? Because a lot of times people come to a stream and, you know, the intent of the streamer can be very different, right? Some people are, let's say, like a gamer streamer. They don't really talk much, their personality is maybe kind of flat, but they're really good at the game. So you go to that streamer and, like, I'm going to use Dizzy as an example. I used to watch a lot of Dizzy. And he is just a phenomenal gamer, like, truly, truly godlike gamer. But he doesn't really use a webcam, he doesn't really say anything, he just like puts music on in the background. But he's great to watch, you know, game, because he's so good at it. And some people, like you brought up Dr. Disrespect earlier, he's a game streamer, he's a terrible gamer. He's like actually bad at most of the games that he plays. But he has that personality that just really pulls people in, and you know, for whatever reason, people just absolutely love that style of content. And so
wait. So I'm going to get. So here's one for people to clip and quote out of context. So because Hugo has his personality, that means he's a bad keyboarder, right?
Yes, yeah, he's terrible, 100%. Terrible at keyboard.
in before clipped and posted all over everywhere. Yeah.
Actually, that's actually almost true because I think people have this meme of me now. Every build I've done on stream, there's at least one switch that has to be desoldered every time, or it's scuffed in some way. Yeah, I've heard that one.
So what do you guys think about that? Like from it, and I want to get Twitch chat's opinion on this too. Like as a viewer, how do you guys feel about going into sub communities for these kind of streamers, for example? Like maybe
it's not like culty and not culty. Like I think joining a niche community is like very enjoyable. I mean, like in this age, like we could get super philosophical here and be like,
sure,
you know, something social media, you know, incredible like increased rates of millennials feeling lonely or whatever you want to call it. But joining a sub community who's interested in what you're interested in or might have the same takes as you might have, is really enjoyable. It's like really, it's what you want. It's like a super big sense of belonging. Now that can get dangerous because obviously we've got like the more memey Discords and whatnot. But yeah, like I think it's really important that like you foster a good community that's healthy, but like people feel welcomed in, and it's something that people could enjoy being part of. I think that's really something that I would like to be a part of for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, some streamers, they're maybe a little bit more educational. Some are a little bit more entertaining. You know, sometimes there's some more hybrids kind of going around too. Apocalypse brings up a good point in chat. He says, I find Hugo's characterized cynicisms refreshing because he knows exactly when to break the fourth wall and tell you what his quote-unquote real opinions are. If you've read Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal, it's the same approach. Yeah, and I think that can draw a lot of people in as well. I mean, not everyone's looking for, you know, I'll use Top Clack as an example, not everyone's looking for this kind of content. Some people just, they want more comedy, or they want more of this kind of informational breakdown, and they want these, you know, hot takes on this and that, or...
Yeah, I think, like, you have to, I'm sorry, Jay, but like...
No, go.
Yeah, like, I think, like, people may not realize in this community that, you know, even though we're really hyper focused on a metal rectangle or sometimes plastic rectangle with switches in it, that like outside of that, they probably like other things. Like they obviously watch different not everyone in keyboards listens to the same music. Like even though we all like the same fucking noise, But like, yeah, it's like, of course, our entertainment personalities are all going to be different, and it's like you shouldn't hate on one, and you say, oh, this guy's a bad entertainer. It's like, no, they're just two different types of personalities, and people have to respect that. To dismiss one just because they make a joke on stream, or to dismiss one because it's too educational for you, is idiotic, to say the least.
Yeah, I think the risk is though that you can go too far the other way. So Gannibal kind of mentions this as well, but you can police and you can kind of push things so much that these mini communities and subcultures do become echo chambers, and they don't then want to invest time in other areas, and they kind of get stuck in the same loop, and they become indoctrinated to what one particular point of view might be, and that's also kind of dangerous as well, I think.
Definitely. I want to give a quick shout out to a few of the subs that have been coming through. Langlandia, thank you so much, man. He says, you sexy boys. There's a comma between sexy and boys, so it's not you sexy boys, it's you sexy boys. Also, shout out to Bledden for 17 months with that Twitch Prime. Thank you so much, man. 159, 20 months at tier 1. Thank you. Appreciate that, my friend. And
just while we're talking about Bledden as well, big shout out to him because he's been doing some charity streaming as well lately. So you guys, go and check out Bledden's charity stream stuff. He's been doing Stand Up to Cancer, so fair play to you, Bledden.
Yep.
And I think I get to pick his costume, his outfit for his 31st of October stream, actually, which would be interesting.
That could get interesting.
Yeah, he's going to do fancy dress for a stream, and he's not going to know what he's wearing until I ship it to him, until he gets it the day before.
Oh, you're going to send it to him. Oh, this is quite interesting. All right, quick shout outs as well to
my boy.
New Types, thank you so much for that sub, as well as Static Age. Appreciate that, everyone. It's very, very kind of you. Getting right back to topic, something that we were talking about the other day, Hugo, that I kind of want to touch on here is kind of just how to handle maybe newer people in some of the, I think as we can kind of put it, bad questions or, unfavorable questions in the community, because we see a lot of the same things. What's the best gaming Switch, and what do I need for this and that? A lot of the repeat questions that we just get, day in and day out. And I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts on it as well. How do you guys think is the best way to actually handle these situations? Because for a lot of people, and I'm going to say this in a negative way, I think it's unfortunate that so many people ask questions, and you gotta realize here, like a lot of people that are brand new to the community, when they're asking what the best gaming Switch is, they don't know any better. But when people like us see that question, it's almost like a meme, right? You're just like, haha, like that's funny.
Good.
And then you see people in your Discord server or whatever start to reply, and they're basically just like indirectly or directly attacking them, or like memeing on them, and it's like some people just want their questions answered. But how do you feel about this approach?
There's like two things here. One, it's kind of hard. It's sad. Like it feels weird because like maybe you guys notice this more than I do because you're probably older than I am. But like there's like it feels like there's a big not age. It's like almost like non-quantifiable, like a timing gap where like people who join the hobby I'll give it an arbitrary value like 6 months ago are totally fine, totally normal, even there was a huge amount of them. But then like after that segment, it's like a whole different crowd of people. I don't want to say it's because of like whatever age group guy. I feel like that's just not true. But like it feels like there's a gap. Like the gap before was like, oh, okay, keyboards are cool, and I'm gonna do the research and find out what I really want to like. And then the next group of people were like, I need someone to tell me what's the best thing right now, at whatever price. Tell me what's the best combination, blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, of course, we have to be welcoming to both communities, to both types of people. And is it more like we could be mean and make fun of them, but like we were in the same position months ago. We just did the research. So like I think the better question is like, how do we encourage new people who are asking to answer that question for themselves, to do the self-learning, to figure out like, oh, I can discover what I like. So like I would probably personally encourage a lot of people like, hey, don't go looking for the best linear, like in quotation marks. Like here, like just buy a sample pack. They exist online. Or just most places sell Switches in packs of 10, right? Just get a pack of 10 and see if you like it or not. It's that easy. Like you don't have to blow, 150 on Zeals to fill out your 1800 layout and then be like, oh no, I didn't like these, right? Like nobody wants to go through that and like break their wallet.
I agree, and I think this comes back to how you cultivate that community. When we talked earlier on about having an intentional culture that you build in the community, you have to have that part of from the ground up. That it's not about treating people differently necessarily. It's more about being understanding of people's own understanding of the hobby and the community, and their own perception of what is out there. People genuinely do need some education sometimes when it comes to the community, because everything is so new to them, and it's such a big bold world out there for keyboards, especially in the past year. I mean, like there's stuff that even I don't know exists, and I sell a lot of stuff, but and you might be the same, Hugo. New switches crop up every day, and new keyboards crop up every day, and new interest checks crop up every day, and you can't keep up with it. They're just the sheer volume of information out there.
It's a full-time job
incredible.
just to keep up with all the information going on.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Actually, Big Skid Row, I just want to answer your question. So he says, how does someone new to the community pick up historical context? What has been good? What has been not good in the community, going beyond the scandals? One, it is possible to do enough digging. It is hard. I blame Geek for being terrible. But the information both exists there and doesn't exist there. One of the best places to ask questions is Discord. And not Twitch chat, though. Twitch chat probably moves too quickly. The streamer probably has other things they're probably focusing on. So I guess the healthiest ways, I think almost every Discord has a general questions channel that I think if the person who's hosting the community isn't horrible, would genuinely answer that question instead. But take your time and find the question channel. Don't just go into general. Derail what could have been a fruitful conversation and be like, hey, do I need to film Gat Inks? It's like, well, come on, man. Read the room.
I think just taking that a step further as well, I think it's that people who join the hobby need to be understanding that they need to learn from multiple sources as well. A lot of people come to the hobby, they'll find one person's preference or kind of point of view or whatever it is, or it might be that they like X switch. I don't know, you could pick famous insert famous gamer here, creams are the best switch or whatever, right? And then they'll come into a Discord server and say, oh, this is the best switch, why can't I buy it on your site, or why can't I buy it on this site, this is the best switch. It's like, well, have you considered trying these other switches? And like, no, this is the best switch.
It's the best. But what is the best? You should always ask them the question. I think that's
exactly, what do you like about that switch? Have you tried other switches? And you need to be welcoming and kind of foster that kind of belief as well. And Apocalypse mentions that you can do established FAQs, and I think you mentioned that as well a minute ago. And it's kind of difficult to promote that because people need to have an open mind when they enter the hobby. If people have closed minds, it's very difficult to try and then help them learn themselves what they need to learn. A lot of the information you say, as you say, is out there. It's on Geekhack, it's on Keep Talk, it's on Reddit, it's on the Discord servers. You can go and investigate and you can find it. But if you're coming to talk to people, don't be afraid of asking, first of all, about a certain topic. Feel free to ask about it. Ask about Sprit and whatever he's done, or Ivan and people like that have done bad things in the community. But when you ask about it, keep an open mind. Don't go into those conversations with an agenda. Keep an open mind, and then people will help you and people will talk you through it.
Yeah, I mean, to iterate for people who might not have as much context is if you ask someone and someone has oh man, I hate, and then insert scammer here, he screwed me over X amount of dollars. It's like, okay, so I'm gonna go ask someone. You should the moment someone asks, tells you that, you're like, wait a minute, okay, maybe I'm gonna have to ask someone else who wasn't scammed by them, just to be like, well, what else has he done? Because I can't just go meet someone who was shot by a cop once for a traffic stop. And then it's like, yeah, what are your opinion on cops? And then take their opinion as the de facto truth, because that just wouldn't make any sense. That is impossible to even fathom. But also people who one thing with FAQs I struggle with, and I know other people struggle with, is sometimes people want to be spoon-fed answers, and maybe sometimes it's better that we kind of half spoon feed them, but that would be really hard. In a utopic world where my entire community is on board with this, someone asks, hey, what's the best linear right now? I wouldn't be like, oh, it's definitely this JWK linear or whatever. I'd be like, well, these are really popular right now, but these have been historically good, or these are historically consistent. These were the first to break, whatever. If people answered like that, I think it'd be like way more interesting, because then that person would be like, okay, so there are options instead of just one thing. And they are different, unlike unless you listen to Pudsey a lot. And then you could expand on that. Like people would be like, okay, so maybe I heard a sound test with this. I think I like this, and it's like, well, okay, well, have you picked out the loop that like works well with that, or like, do you know if it needs films? And then like you can get people into the line of questioning themselves. Like they'll see the question into themselves, they'll see the answer and the idea, and I think it's way more rewarding. I know that was very rewarding when I first joined the hobby, like really rewarding to like find the thing I did like, on my like kind of on my own, like seated on my own.
I will say though that when I think I agree with you, when I joined the hobby, I did things like that and I learned over time and slowly. But I think that's kind of like out of the window a little bit now. I don't think you can take the time to learn things because everything moves so fast now. You kind of have to bring yourself up to speed relatively quickly to be able to get the context of what most conversations are about. Otherwise, you just start to fall behind immediately, and then people fall out of love with the hobby because they can't keep up. I know that happened to me with PCs and things like that. I just couldn't keep up with all the new changes and stuff.
Well, I mean, I want to agree. I understand that. Like, yeah, PCs have been moving really, really quickly. Like, I don't remember anything about the last generation because it just went over my head.
Exactly, yeah.
But like, I think for keyboards, I think it's one of the things where, if you're a responsible person, you wouldn't buy this many keyboards that you need to keep up on top of the hot new thing. Because there's like to this day, like, yeah, there are probably solid classics that you could still use. Like you could probably get cherry blacks and like do very, very well. Or like even the cheapest option, like socket cat yellows, could bring you really far into the enjoyment phase.
Yeah. And it's a good point. People don't need to buy all these boards. 99% of this hobby, if they had to, could be really happy with an
I've ever known.
Yeah, I get really scared when I see people ask questions like, what is the best X or Y? And then someone answers, and they're like, it's this. And I'm like, hold on.
Whoa. Let's take a step back. Let's frame the question properly. What do you mean by best?
That's the thing.
Take it right back to the basics, yeah.
But you got to understand as well, like, a lot of the new people coming into the hobby don't realize how much preference and subjectivity things actually are around the community. A lot of people are like, hey, what's the best Switch? And, someone will just be like, hey, it's this. Because that's what they think is the best. That's what their favorite is. But they don't always, put into context that's like what their favorite is. That's one thing that I try to correct a lot. I'm like, hey, like, this might be a lot of people's favorites, but it might not work for you. Like, you actually have to try things, which is kind of the unfortunate thing about this hobby, because you can talk to 5 people and be like, hey, what's your favorite Switch? And all 5 of them give you a different answer, and then you can wind up hating all 5 of those Switches.
Mm-hmm. And you could like a 6th, and
exactly.
Completely different. Uncool Dude has a good point on this. He says, I think the issue with this is simple. Too many people have been groomed for instant gratification, which then is their expectation for everything. I'm definitely seeing this trend in the younger generations where patience hasn't been taught or learned. I think this also corresponds with the extremely short attention span issues that have been documented by people researching societal trends. I think this is absolutely spot on.
That is spot on.
That's a really, really good view of the hobby as a whole. People do want instant gratification, and one of the biggest complaints that people make when they join the hobby right now is
how long they have to wait.
Why can't I buy it and you ship it tomorrow? And it's because it doesn't exist yet. It is archaic, and it's just endemic of where our society is and community is right now. We're at a point where the hobby is just on the cusp of starting to become mainstream. I want to say I feel like it's just on the cusp of that. It's not quite there yet, but the money, the investment, and the opportunity isn't there to step away from that group buy model just yet. Certainly we're trying. Certainly there's a lot of people. I saw that Mode Keyboards put up an interest check the other day for having 500 boards in stock for their first group buy, which is kind of frankly unheard of.
It's actually probably unfathomable.
Like, it's crazy that that's actually a thing, and we'll probably talk about that in the second topic as well. But I do think that the group buy model is a good opportunity to teach people patience, because then they've got 6 to 9 months to then really work out what is their favorite Switch. And
it's like, what did you buy, for it to sink in? Yeah, like without the instant buyer gratification. Actually, I want to respond to Vihisu. He says Hugo is asking that other people have the same way of thinking of him, or that most people with independent thinking, and the truth is most people are not like that. Yeah, it's kind of true, but like that is my opinion. Like I think it is more rewarding to have independent thought. Like it's like I don't want to do the make big America freedom meme, but it's like, yeah, the whole point was that you would be an independent person. Like that's like this. Our entire Western civilization is built on this idea of independence. Like, of course, I would think like this. And then to say the otherwise, yeah, it's true. Like, yeah, and we can go to the social media thing, like people with lower attention spans, like for instant gratification. Like, yeah, of course, that's true. But if you think that people are more closer to like having that idea of instant gratification, but you have to admit that people are capable of having both parts of their brain work in that way to have slow gratification and instant gratification. Like, otherwise people wouldn't even go to school. Like, yeah, if you can like get a paycheck right away out of high school, why would you go to university? Like, of course.
Yeah. So jumping back onto topic here about kind of the negative impressions we see in the quote unquote bad questions that we see and hopefully are answered well. How do we feel about how we actually answer these kind of questions, and what kind of resources should we be pointing people towards? Because the community is pretty segregated in a lot of ways, and the resources kind of reflect that as well. I mean, you mentioned you can find out a lot just by digging and digging and digging, Hugo, and yeah, sure, you can absolutely dig your way into a bunch of info, but it might take a long time, and you might be going through a lot of places, various discords as well as various forums and random pages and whatnot,
numerous wikis and
I don't want to be mean,
calendars and everything else. Yeah.
No,
but
I
like,
mean,
this is going to sound
hot
super
takes,
mean,
then...
and I don't endorse this at all. Okay, just to be clear. This is literally why people say, hey, this is a hobby that's for people who have disposable income, like people who are able to like swallow the pill of like trying a sample pack and then not having it work out, like people who are willing to be like, yeah, I bought a key call, or I don't like the way it feels. I thought it'd be the best thing for me because it's has the biggest price tag. Hey, turns out it's not my favorite thing. How do you swallow that pill? Like, that's literally like this hobby. This hobby has ups and downs. People will have tastes that are plus and minus, and like, yeah, like that's gonna be something you have to take the risk on for spending $500 on a piece of aluminum. Like, I don't want to make this equivalency, but like, yeah, like for a couple hundred more, you could buy a 3080, which is like actually packed with technology versus the hunk of metal we have.
Yeah, I think we can all agree, and we were talking about this yesterday, Hugo. This is very much a luxury hobby. Let's be real.
Yeah, it is, of course. Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's just fact. So I mean, the hobby does really cater to the people that have that disposable income, and the barrier of entry.
I mean, yeah, of course, of course, we want to have more people join the hobby, but it is what it is right now. Right now, it is a extremely luxury hobby.
Yeah, and there might come a time when we're producing units at such quality and in such quantity, rather. Where you can get those what we consider high-end customs for as low as a couple $100s when we're cranking out, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of units.
The numbers are creeping up every group.
They are.
Like, does anyone remember the last time Salvin went to bed at a normal time? Like, any machinist right now is probably not sleeping.
Like, it's genuinely crazy how the numbers. Like, when I first joined the hobby, if someone went a group buy, they might be waiting a month to sell 30 boards, which was the MOQ that they had to do, right? And it would take a month for that to sell out. Now you can sell 300 boards in less than a minute. Like, almost guaranteed. If you've got a reasonable product, you can put it online. You can sell 300 boards in less than a minute.
I don't know where these sneakerheads came from.
Right? It's exactly that. That we have problems with bots. We have, we talked about this with Upas a couple of weeks ago. That it's difficult as a vendor and as a community to understand how fast these things sell out now. But the capacity isn't quite there to do everything unlimited yet. And once we get to the point where we can do things pretty much unlimited, that's the point at which we can then start to do in stock and everything else, because the money's there, the investment's there. But that's only it's only gonna exacerbate the immediate delivery culture that is endemic to the population at large at the moment, because people just have to learn that that's not the way it is right now.
Yeah.
I think this also. Someone made a good point. Who was it? It was Zerpocalypse and New Types. Yeah, like, people are okay. You're entitled. You're a baller in this hobby. You are probably middle class, upper middle class if you're in this hobby. Like, seriously, in this hobby. Like, yeah, if you can buy a key cult and it's nothing to you, Oh no, did it? Oh, okay. If you can buy a Q clone, it's pretty much nothing to you. Like it's not even like a full paycheck to you. Like okay, great, but like don't go and make fun of someone else who like scrape together their weekly allowance to finally get an AN Pro or something. Like don't do that. Like come on, don't do that.
Man,
Just please don't.
That's making me relive like 2016 RMK all over again when people would be so ecstatic. They would get their Poker 2s, or the Poker 3 had just like recently come out at the time.
Yeah, I had one. Yeah,
It's a
Poker 3,
stock board. I mean, it's a lovely OEM board. I mean, it's a great board to start with in the hobby, even by today's standards. But getting back to my point, I mean, people would make these posts and like they wouldn't be very good pictures, and sure, it's just an OEM board, and they would take a picture of their Corsair or their DOS keyboard or whatever, their poker, and people in the post would just get downvoted to hell, and then you go to the comments section and it's like, get a real board, or like, for that money you should have gotten this or whatever, and it's like,
yeah, but it was like totally
things.
untenable. It was like, yeah, you could have gotten a group by spot in this like 1 of 30 run. It's like, yeah, could I have though? Like really, could I have?
Yeah,
I wouldn't have the board now. I'd still be waiting for it in 9 months' time.
Yeah, like come on, yeah, I'd have it. Come on, get over yourself. But like the biggest meme is that people who buy pokers and AN Pros and duckies, it's like, do you want these people to run your next group buy? Do you want to be able to group buy a Switch at a lower price? Because these people, if you welcome them, they're going to be the people who are helping you lower the price point for the stuff that you want. It's like incredibly like dumb for you to be like, I don't want this person in my community. They don't have a real board. It's like, what does that actually mean though? Like, what does that mean? Don't you want the guy with an AN Pro to upgrade to like a more expensive board? You don't? You want to kick him out of the hobby now? What's your problem? Like, why?
Yeah, and I mean, like, let's be real. We all start somewhere. I mean, a lot of us start on an OEM board, or something what we consider more budget or low end, entry level, whatever term you want to use.
Yeah.
But the more important question is, why would anyone try to gatekeep that? Like, why would anyone, just because they have quote unquote nicer boards, like be toxic and hostile and attack people with quote unquote lesser boards? Like what? Yeah. How is that even like a fun
it's like totally, it's absurd. Like people are, maybe it's the instant gratification thing. They're so short-sighted they can't even see like the future of money actually flowing into the hobby. Like their minds aren't capable of making that connection.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good point. Like, people don't realize that the more people are in this hobby, the more everything becomes easily available, and the more we can actually do. They do gatekeep because and the reason why people gatekeep, and this might be a hot take for me, but I think the reason why people gatekeep is because they're proud of what they have, and they don't want what they have to be last year's news. They want it to be the current good thing, and I think that's why people to some extent do gatekeep. Maybe not everyone, but some reason behind it. And we need to step away from that. Like, I hate it now when you see someone has spent time hand wiring a build. Oh, hold on. All right, let me clarify. That's not the bit to clip. That's not the bit to clip. Wait for the rest. And all of the comments are, why have you bothered doing this? What's the point? You could have just bought X, Y, and Z. And it's like, but that's not true. Like, the really good part about it is that person has spent time and effort to craft something that they really wanted. They've gone and hand wired the whole thing. They've gone to an incredible effort to make something, and they get one upvote. And then you see someone post a picture of, oh, heard my Jane go burr, and they get 5,000 upvotes, right?
No, you did it right. It's look at my Jane with Olivia ++, and it's like, sorry, Olivia, if you're watching, okay. And then it's like, wow, 2 million of it. It's like, come on, man, like he didn't make anything. He just slapped it on a board. No offense, right? But he just kind of bought it and put it on a board. It's like, it's not even. And then it's really funny though. If you go to the comment section and you see like the people who make fun of handwire builds, if you click those people's comments, they're posting on like, male fashion advice. It's like, well, oh, hold on, wait, you made a conscious decision to put an outfit together. How come you didn't hire a stylist to outfit you yourself?
If you've got time to delve into people's profiles like that, you've got too much time.
Or like, no, but they'll be like posting on like PC Master Race, and they're like, oh, look at my beautiful, like everything RGB, like beautifully positioned. That's like, wait, you spent time on that? You didn't just hire someone to do it for you? Like, what are you doing? Like, why would you spend time on that? Like, the same argument can be made, but like, it feels really weird that they're so short-sighted that they can't see it, and it's hilarious to me.
Yeah, I think a part of it is kind of goes back to the instant gratification thing too, because on Reddit these days, you look at RMK for example, it used to be full of information. People would make all sorts of posts about information. Remember build logs? Remember when build logs were like the biggest thing ever before everyone became a build
I remember
streamer?
doing some of those. Yeah,
And
But now you have streamers.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Well, this is before I streamed, but yeah, I used to do build logs and take pictures of every step. And
it's interesting to see
I
because
forgot
if you
about
look at RMK these days, it's just a drive-by for pictures, right? It's like, ooh, nice picture. Here's my upvote. No one really takes the time to like put any effort into like a post anymore, or like, you know, actually have a discussion in a topic. Like it's just like who has the nicest pictures, which is
there are still
fine,
some
but
posts that take effort and put time
For
in.
sure.
And I think the problem is that those posts don't
They don't get any recognition. Never. It's insane.
Yeah.
But I think it's also because it's 2 for 1. Like both the person wants instant gratification, so they'll post like the lowest effort, highest like whatever thing, and then the other on the other side, you're a consumer. You're like, well, I want to upvote and scroll to the next thing as soon as possible if I enjoyed it. Just like I don't want to read a build log. Are you serious? I don't want to read on my curated Reddit feed. Like, come on. Like, yeah, it's like people are just so that lazy. But also, yeah, the people who post. I just got to read this from the chat. The people who post, my wife had said no more keyboards, but I bought another one anyway. And then you go and then you click their profile and they're on R for R. Oh no.
Is R for R still a thing? Is that still
I don't think it is, but like I just think it's super funny if you ever see it. But or like it's like, wow, weird flexing that you have a wife. Good one. I can't believe this was relevant to keywords at all.
Yeah. Like apparently, me wearing my wedding ring on build streams is flexing that I've.
Yeah, that's wait, what is it made of? What did you machine it out of?
what did you machine that?
Like genuinely, I've had complaints about that before. Like, you shouldn't wear a wedding ring on stream. It's like,
yeah,
okay.
Well, actually, if you were a huge personality, you shouldn't, because then if you're single, you're more relatable to the average viewer.
Wow, you're getting
I'm
a little
not
too.
going to disrespect my wife by not wearing.
It's a little big brain for us.
Look,
Hugo.
if you get hundreds of donations, I don't think you're gonna have a problem. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I mean, that's,
When I showed her the message the other day, when someone said that she didn't exist, she said, "But I'm here." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but
apparently you're not, though. I don't know.
Yeah, but her existence is ostracizing your. I'm just kidding. I can't even finish it.
Oh man! All right, we're getting a little too rambunctious here. Quick shout out to Jojo, who rated us with a party of 24. So thank you so much for that, as well as 159, who get to 10 tier 1 subs. Always happy.
Oh my God, September! Let's go, everybody.
Yeah, I keep forgetting it's September. But kind of wrapping up this topic before we move on to some of the other things I'm going to talk about, let's just kind of come back and ask ourselves, what makes a successful sub community? What do you guys think is like a good, successful, healthy sub community? What are you looking for in that?
Helpful people, and I know I'm reading off the doc here, but I think that's absolutely critical. People who want to talk, people who want to help, people who want to be involved in conversations, and they want to show people the right way. When we talked about having that intentional culture earlier on, it's people who absolutely buy into that culture and really want to share that kind of thing. And I don't mean that in an echo chamber way. I mean that in a genuine for goodness way, like just being a good person, being helpful.
Yeah, if the echo chamber is everyone is trying to help you, that's probably the best echo chamber you could ask for.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and we should all strive to be in that kind of position where people are there to help. And there's nothing nicer in life than when you need help, someone's there to help you. And then the second nicest thing in life is being able to help someone when you can see that they need help.
Yeah, I think your personality should be like, if you really want the most ideal personality, it's like, if you were gonna hang out with that person that you present yourself as a friend, like I say this all the time, like to people who sub to me, I'm like, hey, like, you know, you're like, or people who chat a lot, like, yeah, like, you know, if you actually come visit, or like if KeyCon ever opens up, like, yeah, let's just hang out, like outside of KeyCon, like let's just hang out, like, because it's like, yeah, I feel like we would just get along. Like, you want your community to be people who you probably like have a normal conversation with in real life, and like to think anything else, you're probably doing it wrong. Like, if you have to fake all of those things to get into that position, maybe you should take a step back, and then like reevaluate the way you want to go about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Something that is really important to me is that, particularly for Discord servers and communities, it's a place where people can kind of feel welcomed, safe, and be able to be themselves. because
Yeah.
I mean, like we mentioned earlier, like a lot of the hobby's pretty cliquey nowadays, just because it's gotten so large. And no, pretty much everyone in this hobby is in some sort of clique, whether they want to see it or not. I mean, no one is equally spreading themselves across like every Discord server or every streamer, every vendor, whatever. Like, you have your priorities by and large, and where you end up could kind of change the way that you view the community and the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis. Like, that might change the way you view things. But I mean, I think as long as like you feel like you belong in that place, that's a really big thing. And being happy, being healthy, and being helpful, I think, is a really, really good start to any of that as well.
You think the hobby is more linear than clicky? Good joke.
Good one. One.
Like, yeah, clicks will always exist. I mean, there's already, I don't want to make fun of any particular individual, but there's already like clicks that surround certain figures, even certain designers, even certain makers. There's like microcosms of the community. And it could feel really fractured, because like the moment one community member speaks out against another, it could get really nasty really quick, even if it was like a haha, just a joke moment, and like they talk it out and it's fine. But their fans might not see it that way, and they'll like defend their content, their person they like, to the
like
death. And it's like, no, like we don't. I don't want to endorse that kind of behavior.
Yeah. And like I mentioned on previous streams too, I don't think anyone's in the hobby to like make enemies, right? Like, no one's here like specifically to be hostile or toxic, or to be like unfriendly. Like, we all enter the community with a relatively open mind, I'd like to think, and like trying to better ourselves and others, or at least we can hope. But with a lot of the way the keyboard culture has been going lately, it's seemingly kind of the opposite, as we see so many people being memey and hostile and toxic, and everyone just
if there's one thing I want to go, like, if there's anything I could get rid of from this hobby, is the endless, terrible, low quality, low effort, high up vote count MX Brown memes. I wish that shit would go away. Like, I'll do anything. All right, please.
Anything.
No more bad MX Brown memes. Okay, I don't know why.
Let's hope Glasses isn't watching.
Every single meme is the same. It's like, oh, buy Browns. It's like, oh, they feel like linears. Or it's like, oh, well, I don't know why everyone on the sub hates MX Browns. It's like, nobody has ever made a post about hating MX Browns. Like, I don't think this even exists, and I don't even think it exists in the comments. Like, hey, and then half the comments are like, everyone in this comment field hates MX Browns, but actually, I got them on my poker and I love it. It's like, no, nobody mentioned this. No, stop. You're fabricating comments. Like, this is absurd.
I will go on record to say that MX Browns actually got me into the keyboard community. It was the Poker 2 with MX Browns. That board, stock, PBT keycaps, stock MX Browns, that board was a delight, I will have you know.
And, okay, Tim Tamale, it's not just the Glarses memes, because it happened before Glarses. I know for a fact this happened before Glarses.
Oh,
but
yeah,
it is Glasses kind of like whole shtick in the
God,
Browns.
Man, Glarses,
Browns are okay.
I love you, man.
He's a good guy. His Glasses. I've got.
You gotta stop this from happening.
But
only
like,
you can prevent MX Brown memes that are bad.
Browns. Like, I have them in my chain. Like, I genuinely don't dislike MX Browns. I think they're not a terrible switch. I think you're absolutely right, Hugo. This whole meme that it's a fake news meme that they're a bad switch.
Yeah, and it gets like 3,000 upvotes, and it's like, can you like, okay, I don't want to circle jerk myself that hard, but it's like, yeah, when I made the burned Holy Pandas video, I was surprised I didn't break 1K, but then the next week when the MX Brown meme came up, it had like 5,000 upvotes. I was like, come on, is this the content you guys want to be consuming? The MX Brown meme? We knew you weren't going to buy it anyways. Why the hell would you? What does it add to the conversation?
You played the algorithm wrong, dude. You needed to read the community better. I think that's
you're right. True. Big true.
Quick shout out to Iwane, who also gifted 10 tier 1 subs. Thank you so much, man.
People on that sub train today. Wow, thanks, guys. We
really
appreciate it.
Hey, guys, please. I'm just kidding.
It's because we have Hugo here, obviously.
Yeah,
people.
Yeah, I brought all these new age viewers who have never seen wholesome content before. So it's a huge twist for my viewers.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, before we go way over time here, let's go jump right into our next topic, which is interest check quality and kind of the interest check format. So I know this is something that you wanted to discuss a little bit about, Hugo, because as I'm sure all of us know, there have just been an absolute flood of interest checks, for better or worse, in our hobby over the last couple of years, and more specifically, kind of since the COVID era, as I'm calling it, has started.
Mm-hmm.
And
too much time on their hands.
Can I do a really hot take on this?
Yeah, hit me up.
Oh, yeah, if you go here, you have to.
So, well, yeah. I mean, it's not really,
to.
it's not a spicy one as such. It's just my personal feeling. So it's not really a hot take. It's just how I feel about it. But I think that interest checks as a whole have kind of split into two subgenres now. We've got actual interest checks where people are like, I have an idea, I might need some help, I don't know if it's good or not. A proper interest check, back as historically it was, is anyone interested in this, and can you guys help me refine the design? And then we've got a second wave of them, which are always labeled as ICs, but they're not. They're just kind of like, look, this is going to happen, and this is me telling you about it.
Yeah, you better micro calendars. It's like, oh,
I'm going to do this. Yeah, and I think there's no recourse to give you yourself another label or anything. Everyone has to label those as interest checks right now, but they're not. They're sale posts, effectively. They're pre-notification.
They're hype posts. That's what they are.
Maybe. Yeah, it can be hype as well. Yeah.
I think there's actually 3. Then there's the meme post, where things are just clearly a shit post. Just for Puzzy to farm, nice post counts on Geekhack. But actually, yeah, I think you're totally right. I think there's another category of like idea checks that aren't like interest checks. They're not even on that part of the forum. I think it's another piece on Geekhack itself, where people like actually post work in progress ideas. But now it's kind of interesting because that place has died down, and the reason we don't talk about it is because like people are so secretive with their ideas, and they want to hold it really close to their chest because they're afraid someone's going to swoop in and then steal their their money maker. Because like unfortunately, like this hobby does have some greedy like ideals backing it, which could pollute some stuff. But like so there's good interest checks and bad interest checks. Some interest checks are simply like, hey, I've actually already made 200 units. This is going to be a 500 unit sale. Like, it is what it is.
It's more of an announcement.
Like this is literally just to give me like 4 more weeks to produce it. And then the other one could be like, hey, is anyone actually interested in this maglev mounted board? And then like, it's a work in progress.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm just explaining the world over here.
That's historically where interest checks came from. They were a case of, like, this is what I'm working on. Is anyone else interested in this? And that's kind of the historical context. The whole idea of, and we kind of fell into this trap when we did the news show on Top Clack of saying an interest check should be more well thought out. But what we were really saying is if people are going to sell this, they need to have a more well thought out interest check.
I kind of felt bad because I know I've said that too. Alongside, and I know Pudzy unironically endorses this idea. He's like, yeah, you should have a proto made. You should have multiple renders. You should already have the layout, blah, 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 all this other stuff. You should have pricing and not vendors, but like pricing and shipping. It's like, well, yeah, but at that point, you're basically ready to sell. And that's not really an interest check. That's just a group buy with a checklist.
And it's hard to want to invest.
Group buy,
so I've taken a step back from it. Thank goodness.
Things like prototypes, not always the cheapest thing in the world too, especially what you're like, depending on what you're trying to do. So it's hard to want to invest a lot of money and time into something if nobody's going to be interested in it, right? Like that was kind of how interest checks were. Like it was there to gauge interest before you did something.
Spend money on this. Yeah. Is anyone else actually interested? Does anyone else want to work on this with me?
Because otherwise, why drop a bunch of money on it? Like.
Yeah, like I got an absolute ton of feedback when we did the Lodestone interest check that we didn't have a prototype, and it's like, well, the prototype's ordered, it's on its way. It's just COVID's taking a while to ship it to us, right? And we've had prototypes made since March, or whatever it was, a couple of weeks after we posted the interest check. But I got so many DMs saying you should not have posted that interest check without having the prototype on hand. It's like, well, that's not an interest check then. If I'm at the point where I'm actually saying, here is the prototype, it's all fully working, no issues with it, it's ready for sale, here's how many units I'm going to sell, here's the price of it, this is where you can get it.
And it's like, oh, I just need you guys to pay me, and then it's all ready to go. And it's like,
that's not an interest check, right? It's not. It's very different. So I think we do have to kind of maybe this is something we need to speak to Geekhack about and come up with like a third tier of the group by phase. If true interest checks as have an actual interest check, kind of like,
and then like
group by, pre-group by.
I don't know how you would phase it,
Just
but it would
call it
be
an
like,
announcement.
you know,
Call it what it
idea
is.
refinement, and then it's interest check. I don't know how you split it, but I feel like, you know, well, one thing is like we want to curb, like on the other side of this, we want to curb all the bad interest checks, and like I think we mentioned like a template of some sort to follow. I wish we kind of had a post standardization. I also wish our like the mods on Geekhack were like as proactive as Mech Market, because Mech Market is like really on it. As soon as your title's like out of sorts, they're like banning your entire thread. Yeah, like maybe we should have something like that, like where
There's a
only
bot that
real
does that.
like interest checks that are like, yeah, I don't want to see another GMK Holy Panda ever. Like that'd be great if that never showed up again. I'm okay with that person being banned forever. I mean, like, or coming back and like having a real interest check. Like, please, anything but that stuff, right? Because it just clutters everything.
Yeah. So you mentioned bad interest checks. So I think this is going to be a good time to actually say what makes an interest check good or bad. What are the things that you like to see, and what are the things that you objectively think make a good or bad check?
Information, and unfortunately, although this is totally counterintuitive to the average person, apparently, is like I want to see like well fleshed out idea. Like, you know, if you don't have a prototype, have like pictures. If you don't have that, like here, have like information like here's everything going to work. Here are the specs. Like, the less information you give someone, and it's just a one-time top-down photo layout, the worse it's going to be. Like, the less information, the more questions, and then like the weirder the other claims are. Like, we're just gonna hold you really accountable. Like, if you show me a picture of the keyboard layout and then you say you're gonna have unlimited group buy, and this is your first time making anything, yeah, I'm gonna make fun of you. Like, what is this? Like, you can't do this because people don't even know what they're buying. Yeah, great. I know that the average GMK layout will fit this. Now what? Like, that's preposterous. So yeah, like I just kind of want to see more effort in like, hey, here's some pictures, here's an idea of what it's going to be like, you know, and then all the other stuff is extras, which we like, but aren't necessary.
I think the other flip side to this as well is that some people intentionally leave out information in their interest checks so that people will ask for that information in the thread. And I've heard quite a few people talk about laying it out that way.
Is this response baiting?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm very much of the mind that if I put up an interest check up, I want to put in there as much information as I can. I mean, if anyone goes back and looks at the Lodestone or Joe or whatever, you'll see that I try and lay it all out in the sections and try and say this is the inspiration, this is the design, this is kind of like the breakdown of what the specs are. Whatever it is, I try and put information in there. But you still get people that ask about all that information because they choose not to read or they misread.
But one thing is like, I would think that most sane people would want to put as much information in the interest check as possible, because why would you want to waste time replying? God, man, I hate replying to stuff. Please, if you could read it, thank you. If you don't want to read it and you're gonna ask, bug me a question. I'll answer you. Okay, I love answering questions, but I hate answering like dumb questions. I'll even say it nicely. I always respond to questions in my Discord super nicely, but on the inside sometimes, oof, please just read.
Yeah, so earlier you kind of mentioned like a template of some sort. Do you guys think, and Twitch chat of course chime in here as well, do you guys think it would be maybe a good idea to have kind of like a centralized template that people can follow, that people can just grab right off Geekhack and then start inputting all the information in the kind of pre-recorded categories, as it were?
Yeah, I think so. Totally doable.
I don't think that's a bad idea. I think it will lead to some very formulaic interest checks.
I think it needs to be
really
a template that definitely here. I think it's got to be a really specific template, because people actually, I see this sometimes where there's a bad interest check and then someone links like, here's a guide on a good interest check. I think it could be like something like that, but like if they post an interest check that follows that guideline word for like, you know, staple by staple, it actually turns out bad. Like they need to like use their brain, God forbid, a little bit to like make the interest check actually interesting. You know, like here's a guideline, but if you follow this, it's actually a fail. But it will guide you in the right direction, kind of thing. I think that could probably be the best way to do it, rather than so that way we can avoid, you know, everyone has the same kind of post. Everything is like still kind of low effort because they're just gonna, you know, staple everything onto a skeleton. Maybe something like that would.
And do you think that they should be vetted first? Do you think there should be kind of some...
I mean, that gets risky. Like, if we had a council that we could trust, sure, but then that gets really dicey because then,
Where's
unironically,
Pudsey?
that's gatekeeping to the next level.
Where's our?
I'm playing devil's advocate with it here.
Yeah, for sure.
Like trying to explore it a little bit.
Part of me wishes that's possible, but then like that council would have to be vetted almost like on a quarterly basis.
This is exactly how I felt.
I think. Oh, actually, here, no. A council would be good if anything that gets pushed or denied, no matter what the result is, their names are associated with who was approving and denying it. If your track record was visible, that would hold so much accountability, and I think that would definitely encourage people to like not, like let's say I'm Pudsey and I don't like Zondad's boards. This is hypothetical, of course, not true.
Oh yeah,
because I'm not Pudsey. And if he votes no on all of Zondad's board, it's like, okay, there's clearly a conflict of interest here. You're off the panel. But if but like it's totally different if he votes. If it's like they're back and forth.
It's hard to find people in this hobby that
more
are
I think
that neutral and that unbiased. I feel like it's very difficult, honestly.
You have to have a really objective set of criteria, and you'd have to say you have to hit this criteria rather than have any subjective kind of like viewpoints in it. Because as soon as you bring any subjectivity into it, you're open and ripe for abuse.
Yeah, I think for sure. If there was a council, they would have to be following a guideline that's been set out that says like, hey, you can't just dislike him because that guy's name is Old Cat. Okay, you're gonna actually have to dislike it because there's missing information or ideas or actually important financial information is too vague, stuff like that. I think that stuff is way more important.
Hugo be like, I don't like that layout, it's got an ISO enter key on it, let's just not run.
Is that another corner blocker 65? Get that out of my I'm just kidding.
That's
is that another knob? This automatically failed.
This kind of reminds me. I had a conversation a couple weeks back with someone about like key set colorways and how like I get really not tilted, but I'm just like I get so whenever someone asks me like if a key set is good, like if a colorway is good or bad, I'm just like, look. I am not the authority on what colors are good and bad, or what colors because people are like, "Oh, that key set's shit," and it's like, "Okay, why?" Well, the colors are shit. Okay, why?
No, I gotta play semi-devil's advocate here because there are some. Okay, let's not pretend all keycap sets are made equal. They're not. But when people come and ask, that's kind of like hilarious to me because it's like, okay, this is actually the most subjective part of this hobby. Like, it's literally not even quantifiable, like whether what colors look good to your eyes versus my eyes. Like, I don't even know if, like, you probably can't prove this. Like, whatever green or red I see are probably different, could be different from what green or red you see. But it's like, why would that matter, though, right? Like, it wouldn't matter. But like, yeah, of course, like, there are, like, design aesthetics that have truths and falses to them. But it's like, at the end of the day, like, you shouldn't rely on an authority to tell you if it's good or bad. The moment that you're asking the question means you probably kind of want it, which means like you should make your own decision.
Yeah, and it's weird because I see people like get shit in the hobby for liking a set that's like maybe not popular.
Yeah, it's like, well, hold on, like you can dislike that set, but don't make fun of someone else for liking it. That's the dumbest thing ever. Like, come on.
One of the interesting things I've seen on this quite recently is people posting in certain discords that X historical set isn't as good as Y new set, and the reason for it is because it didn't sell X number of units. So they're like comparing like a modern set that sells say 1,000 units because that's what everything seems to sell these days, versus a set that sold in 2015 that only sold 200 units, and it's like you can't justify basing the popularity of something when there's 5-year gap between when they ran purely because of the community size and the spending power that's available.
I mean, even without that, like you could, even without the community age meme, you could even say like, well, actually, Mr. Sleeves barely made MOQ. Actually, Olivia Round 1 barely made MOQ. Or like GMK Hydro, I know is quite popular, but it's like, I'm not gonna say like Mizu is like that much more like, come on, like that's so disingenuous. Come on. I think that's such a bad take. Like, man, I hear a lot of bad takes, okay, every week. But like that is the worst one. Like for people to say, oh yeah, Dolch Round 1 was bad because modern like Moto Dolch is way better. Like look at the numbers. It's like, no, come on. Like you're not even putting context onto it. Come on.
You can't even compare a set
that's
that's
not
all
even
at
a
the beginning of 2019 versus
Yeah,
sets
even this.
now,
Yeah,
right?
even just last
Within
year,
12
it's
months,
totally
because
different.
the numbers are just getting greater and greater and greater. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up GMK Olivia because like it's arguably the most popular set in the community, and like you mentioned, round one, I think it had to be bought out to meet MOQ.
It was bought out. Yeah, I believe it was bought out.
A lot of people just didn't care about it, didn't want it, and then it shipped, and all of a sudden, bam!
Yeah, people took 2 photographs of it. They're like, oh my god,
It was
a
Dixie
girl
Mech
made a
Madness
pink set.
2019 key set of the year. It's just
I
crazy.
remember getting that key set back in late 2018, and
Before the hype, did you actually like it? I'm super curious.
Yeah, like I genuinely liked it. I was friends with Olivia. I was chatting to her about it, and she talked to me about the ISO and keys and stuff before, and then I bought it. And I think it was through Candy Keys, and they said as soon as we get it in, because I was streaming and stuff at the time, they said we'll send it to you the day we get it in before we start to process the rest of the orders. So I had like before most of the people, and I remember opening it up and showing people pictures of it, and the response was like, meh. And then 6 weeks later, as soon as everyone
The
else
same people too.
like,
Oh, I love
everybody
Olivia.
wanted. Yeah, it was.
I wish you should have screenshot. You were in a position. You should have done it. Oh, I want to see Toxic J back at it. I need to see what year did it like ship. I need to see that. I need to see Toxic J. Hey guys, what do you think of Olivia? And then their response is, real boring. Only 2 colors, shit. And then 2 weeks from now, take it back, walk it back for me right now, please.
Wait, you said it was shit. You're now paying $600 for the key set?
Yeah,
Whoa.
willingly, and then saying that you supported it the whole time, that you just were not financially ready. Shut up right now.
Yeah, that's a good topic to kind of bring up too. Is bandwagoning? It's a real thing in this hobby. It really is.
I don't even know how to fight it. I don't think it's possible because it takes one opinion. We're gonna use the I word. I'm influencer. I mean, it takes one influencer to like blow something up.
This is back to something that you were talking about earlier, Hugo, with just independent thought. Think for yourself. Like, be an individual, right? Like, it's okay to have opinions. It's okay if other people hate you for those opinions. Some people will be like, GMK Olivia is a shit set, and you should feel bad for liking it.
Yeah,
but
at least
why?
hold on to that opinion when it turns out that it's selling for $600 on the aftermarket. Like if you double down, you're like, nope, I still think it's bad. I would have way more respect for you because at least you have a spine and you weren't going to conform for no reason.
Yep. All right. The next thing I kind of want to touch on is financial motivation in this hobby and when people run interest checks and group buys. Is it right or wrong to be financially motivated to run a product? What do you guys think?
This is a difficult one to answer, but
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with being compensated for you doing work. If you're putting time and effort in, there's nothing wrong with being compensated for that. I think everyone would agree from that perspective. I think if you are actively searching to try and force yourself to come up with an idea to sell to make money in a hobby, that might not be the right thing to do. But there's a fine line. If you are good at something and you're talented and you're able to make it your job, then that's one thing. But if you are actively entering a hobby to try, and this could be any hobby, it's not relevant to just keyboards.
Yeah.
If you're actively entering a hobby and your first instinct is right, looking at all of the stuff out there, what can I do that fits into this hobby that will make me money? That's not the right kind of frame of reference to have, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. I agree. If you're like leaving high school, I mean, if you graduated this year, I don't know if that's possible. But if you're young, okay, and like you haven't had a full-time job, or you're trying to make this your full-time job, yeah, like of course, people should be compensated for their work. People should be compensated for new ideas, innovation. But if you are like on the rails, trying to be like, okay, my whatever anime inspired or Asian inspired show made me a lot of money on my keycap set. I need to have another one. I need to make it a new profile immediately. Make another version of the same theme but like in a different style, or like if you're just consistently milking something just so you can say just so you could be like, yeah, I can justify this. I can make this my full-time job because people are willing to spend money. I don't know if your heart is in the right thought. Like it feels kind of bad that you're kind of doing this. Like obviously I can't stop you. No one's going to be able to. I'm just like I just think it's like not healthy for the hobby, because then if someone takes the same inspiration you know rushed out just so that you can make ends meet, but then people are going to call them for being copycat, and it's kind of like a really bad loophole, and it's kind of unhealthy, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like I hear it quite often. It's like, oh, like I've had this conversation with people, and I've said if you're doing it for the financial stuff in the first instance, if you're designing to make money rather than designing because you enjoy it, and then it happens to make you money, those are two very separate things. And I think the second is easier to understand within the community, and it's going to be it's going to lead people to enjoy what you're making more. I think if your heart is truly in what you're designing, people will absolutely enjoy it more than if you just try and do something because you want to make some cash out of it. And I say this as someone who has created key sets and worked with people to create keyboards, and as a vendor as well. You know, like full disclaimer here, GMK Midnight Rainbow, I didn't take any royalties for that. Like the whole thing, didn't take any royalties from anyone for that. Paid for all my own renders, didn't ask for any money from the vendors that ran it and stuff like that, because I didn't feel like that would be the right thing for me to do. And if I had developed that with the idea of trying to make some cash off the back end in my head, I personally wouldn't have felt comfortable with that.
Yeah, that's like really honorable. I think that's like I would like to have more people who hold that stance in this hobby, because like you know we all have other niche hobbies. Like everyone knows this, but we know that even let's do cameras real quick. Not every camera manufacturer started with the idea I want to make cameras to make money. They liked crafting lenses and all of the other intricate parts that make up a camera because they have the love and passion for photography. Like that is the reason what makes them today. Now, granted, like their hobby is way older, but like we're not even comparable. We're not even on the same scale. Like so, yeah. Like I think companies that want to like carve out their name as like premium keyboard manufacturers should have their mindset in the right place. Like they should be crafting things that they like, that they think are quantitatively good for themselves, and then the money should come later, like whether or not the community supports.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like the whole idea behind what I do here in the warehouse and everything. Like the reason I set up the company wasn't to try and take money or anything else. I don't take a penny. I don't pay myself for doing the work I do. But what I do get, the benefit for me, is I get to see all of these cool products, and I get to help people as well. Like one of the big things that I do and is help people make prototypes. Like that's the whole reason behind the name of Prototype, is if someone has an idea and they can't afford to fund it and get a prototype, or they want a one-off and they're struggling to do it or whatever, then that's what I like to help out with. Like every month or two we cover the costs for someone to get a board, a one-off, and have something created, because that's just my way of paying it back to the community.
Yeah, I actually want to touch up on this because I know we had written this down. Is that I actually think in part of the Interstrek world, for all these newcomers, who especially and mostly specifically for newcomers who want a board, is like people don't understand, like this hobby once again is a premium hobby. And do I expect someone who is like, okay, I don't have the funds to join this hobby, but I'm really good at like engineering, so like I could probably sketch up a keyboard, but I can't afford to make it. So like maybe I can run a group out to cover the cost. So yeah, I think it's good that they can make an interest check. And then it's like I don't want to like hold them to the same standard as someone else. Where's my prototype? I don't want to ask that question because like they can't afford a $500 prototype and then also have it sent to them and then also take good studio lighting, because then you automatically somehow assume they have a good camera and all this other stuff, and like that's preposterous. Like no, of course not.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of going back to the IC talk just a little bit here, I want to talk a little bit about expectations between new and veteran members, because obviously we see ICs of all different calibers and from all different people that are either brand new to the hobby or have been in the hobby for a decade. Do we have different expectations from these people that have been around for a while?
I think we might just want to pause for a second, Brian. I think we're having bitrate issues from the stream. It looks like it's gone red and people are complaining about it. So,
Oh no.
No.
Yeah, we have dropped a few frames here.
We're being doxxed by Big Keyboard. I'm calling it out.
By Big Keyboard. Oh,
No one
crap.
else wants to do it. I'll say it.
I have
Yeah,
no
Jay is
idea
Big
what's happening.
Keyboard. You see, he has a warehouse. He confirmed it. You know
I
who
do
else?
have a warehouse, but I'm not a big keyboard.
You know who else has a warehouse? Razer. Boom. Therefore,
Big takes. Big takes.
I hope we're recording this so that's not off the stream.
It's being recorded on Twitch.
Okay. Oh no. Can I get some
am-
next slides in chat if anyone hears that?
I am not sure what's going on right now, I gotta be honest. I am dropping
Yeah.
some frames. It could be like a network issue.
I guess.
I'll give it a moment to hopefully fix itself.
Yeah, throw them under
I
I
don't
think
really know what else to do.
it's a Twitch side issue because when I'm looking at the bitrate graph here, I'm looking into the settings now. It's a steady 4,500 plus kilobits. It's not dropped below that, which is enough for 1080p, like significantly more. So I don't think it's your end, Brian. I think this might be a Twitch thing.
It's definitely very possible. Because yeah, I mean, the bitrate seems fairly steady for me.